Hello, I'm Concepcion from Rowheels, and I want to introduce you to a new biomechanical, ultra-efficient way of propulsion, and that is Rowheels. Vastly different than the push systems you've seen in the past. This is a new revolution in movement. And let me show you some of the quick, easy things that you're going to see with Rowheels. Different than pushing, as you see the average person propel, most end users, most clients will start from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, which is about a 60-degree angle, and not as efficient as it could be. Rowheels changes that. With the pull to propel methodology, we're able to travel from 3 o'clock to almost 9 o'clock, which enable the clients to travel much farther and much more efficiently. Huge, huge benefit with this type of design. The other added benefit is biomechanically. If you think about it, the standard person, when they propel, as they push forward, many clients end up shifting forward into a posterior pelvic tilt, and they end up very kyphotic. You can see that. I think everybody's seen that from their clients in seating clinic. Very difficult to breathe and very tough seating posture. But this change in propulsion methodology actually makes that seating system better, makes their seating and their posture vastly better. And you can see essentially, as I grab the handrail and pull back, notice the shoulder retraction, the fact that my arms are coming back behind, and the key thing with all this is I'm engaging those larger back muscles. That's where it becomes efficient. We all have seen those patients, those clients we've dealt with for long-term, that long-term push, 15, 20 years, has just made it very difficult for them. In fact, they all present pretty much the same, which is that posture we just talked about, that posterior pelvic tilt, that internal rotation, that very kyphotic, and that's what we want to address. That's clearly bad for them. Not great respiration-wise, and clearly this is not the way anybody wants to seat long-term. So the change in this movement and by using those larger muscle groups, absolutely encourages that client to sit more upright, their visual field is opened up, their respiratory system is increased. It's just a much more efficient movement. This was actually first studied. It was a study done by Dr. Rincon in Florida, and one of the key things with this study, and you can see this online on our website, is EMG study looked at peak muscle activity, and what they found was the peak muscle activity pushing is in two muscle groups, the pec major and the anterior deltoid, and that is very clear with any of our long-term users. Again, they all present the same from that long-term pushing. It's all internally rotated. But conversely, when you look at that change in movement and you pull back, you're using much larger muscle groups, you're using much more biomechanically sound system, and you're changing the posture of the client. That absolutely makes sense. And just for the seating people out there, I can equate this a bit to seating, and this is what makes sense to me is there's a variety of cushions out on the market, cushions made with different mediums, gel, air, foam, some of them with all of those. But regardless of what it's made of, regardless of the medium, the whole premise behind the seating and the cushion is pressure distribution. That's key. If we knew that there was peak pressure, again, here we are, we're focusing on two muscle groups. If we knew that there was peak pressure in a certain area under the ITs, we would absolutely be concerned for that patient for skin breakdown. But why are we not looking at that with propulsion? This is clear here and in subsequent studies down the road. It's absolutely imperative that we look to distribute that. And as you look at this study online, you'll see the EMG forces, the peak muscle activity is distributed over larger posterior muscles in a bigger surface area. Again, equate that to seating, that makes sense. Why would we focus on a couple muscle groups when we could distribute that force required to propel over a larger surface area and bigger muscle groups? That makes sense to me. So a couple of key things about this system. Again, vastly more efficient. I want you to notice a few things as I propel. I don't have that force and strike when I push. There's no compression forces on my wrist as I come down to strike the chair. This is all very smooth, very efficient. My hands are grabbing on the hand rim, and it's an easy exchange back to pulling again for the next stroke. So again, very efficient, very easy, and that's the key. It has to be easy for the users, okay? So let me break the components down so you can see what they are. The whole system is a planetary gear built inside of a wheel. Just like any wheel, or most wheels, it's a quick release system. So you can see that. The whole wheel comes off, very easy for any client, any clinician, any family member to take off. And the only thing that we add to the chair is this latch mechanism, right? So with any planetary gear, there's a point of origin that we use to start the gearing system functioning. That's what this is. And if you notice, I'll try to spin this to the side, and you can see this. The latch mechanism is inside the seating frame. It doesn't interfere. So why is that key? It's key because if you have somebody who has standard wheels and they have row wheels and they want to perhaps shift them back and forth to build up those muscle groups, no problem. The system doesn't interfere with those, and that's exactly what we want. I can't expect a 30-year post-injury to jump into row wheels with the atrophy that they have in the posterior muscle groups and be able to use this every day. Let's build up to it. This is your health. We're trying to make you better, but the system has to be adaptable to their situation, which is how we've designed it. So that's key. So again, the latch mechanism. Here's the system. You can see here, everything that we do is controlled inside of the hub. You have your quick release axle. This is what we call the torque arm. 2 different sizes, 8 and 10. 10 is primarily for folding chairs, 8 generally for rigid chairs. And then your pen placement, you can see, is ultimately adjustable to fit any type of chair design, any type of mounts that are on the system, side guards, T-style arms, doesn't matter. We've set it up to be adjustable so that it latches easy, and that's the key thing for the clients. If it's not easy, it's not functional. We thought of that. All right, so if anybody transferred out of their vehicle, this is going to go back together just exactly like it would with a normal chair. They're going to put the wheels on each system, transfer into the chair, and then I'm going to flip this up so you can see this. As they're sitting in the chair, all they're going to do is grab the hand rim, and you're going to spin that. It's going to self-engage, and then the client is off. I'll do that again. All of our systems have redundancy built into it. It's got a latch mechanism just in case somebody gets food or hair or they need to release it by hand. Great backup system, but it's designed to self-actuate. So once it comes forward, the system's going to latch into place and the client's off. No leaning out of the car, trying to match up holes or trying to get in a certain spot. That doesn't make sense to us. Has to be easy for the client, so therefore it's designed that way. The other thing is we use the existing camber tube of the manufacturer. So that's a bit different than some of the other systems out there. That's what makes it unique. That's what makes it great for the fact that a person can flip wheels back and forth between their regular standard push wheels if they need to use them and our system. I'll say not too many. I don't know of a bunch of systems out there that do that. You're committed to it once you put those on, and we feel like, hey, based upon your situation, you should be able to adapt to it. So that's important for us. One of the other features of the system, and we looked at a variety of different designs, is we thought about all the people with braking and stopping and how the hands are destroyed. And that's key because generally as somebody's going down a hill or ramp, the first thing they do is wrap their hands around the hand rims. And I think all of us see people with gloves and sores and calluses. So we thought there's absolutely a way to address some of that and make it easier for people to stop. And we've actually built that into our system here. So as I turn to the side, what you'll notice is, again, everything we do is controlled through the hub. So we use a flexible attachment here. This is a glass-filled nylon, but you'll notice, and you can see me flex this hand room, and that is flexible for a reason. We want it that way. That's key. And I'll spin to the side now so you can see in every wheel on the hand rims, there's these little high-density plastic pads. And if you think about a bicycle, the way that somebody's going down a hill, what do? They squeeze the cables, the pads go into the rim wall, create friction, and slow it down. This is no different. This is using the hand rims and using that to the end user's benefit. So as somebody's going down a hill or a ramp, instead of grabbing hold of those hand rims and tearing your hands up, you can easily flex those in, create friction, and stop the chair. So very important. All right, I want to quickly elaborate on a recent study that has just been completed, and that was by Rancho Los Amigos. I will have some information put up on the screen for you to see, but important and also absolutely conclusive that Rowheels is vastly healthier for propulsion. The pull to propulsion methodology, much more sound and more efficient than push. By that previous study with Rincon, you saw the EMG testing. Again, Rancho found exactly the same thing, that the fact that you were able to distribute that force over larger muscle groups and a bigger surface area, much more efficient, and again, better posture, better breathing, all those things more important. One of the key findings, though, that Rancho found was this impingement, and I think that's key. It's one of the most common things we hear from people in manual chairs, especially long term. Everybody feels some pain and discomfort. I've seen the figure 70%, some people have said 80%, but the bottom line is we all know somebody in a manual chair that has some discomfort. And mainly it comes from that rotator cuff area. I think for everybody, and I've heard a few physiatrist friends say, it's not if you're gonna have shoulder pain, it's when. But I think they've isolated that with this particular study, and they found that in that rotator cuff area around the supraspinatus tendon, that's where a lot of that impingement occurs. And that's an area we want to absolutely stay away from, right? So that was specifically with forces when someone pushes. However, when you change that and use Rowheels and pull to propel, it's a negative force. That impingement goes away. And why that's so important to me and why it's huge is for every person, every vet, every client that I've talked to that I've been able to put in Rowheels, I get a text message, an email message, or some type of contact somewhere between 1 and 8 days, and all of them say the same thing, that it's fascinating. They never would have thought, just by changing that movement, that pain and discomfort would go away. So it's such a huge thing. One, that Rancho was able to isolate it and found it, but also, again, us as we're testing it and feedback from clients in the field have all provided that same information. So that's important, one, for shoulder health, that's important for posture, and that's important for you staying healthy and staying in a manual chair. That's the goal. We want you to be out there and be active and not worried about how this is going to affect you and moving into power and changing your lifestyle. So that's key. So Rowheels has two models. Two distinct models, two very different, designed for different clients. So what the wheel set I'm in now is the LX, or the low gear model. And in particular, the way that you'll notice that the gear ratio, this is a 1 to 0.75. So what does that mean? That means as I rotate the hand rim, for every time that hand rim goes around, the tire is going 3/4 of a turn. So what does that do for the person in the chair? It actually makes it easier to propel. It lessens the force by about 25%. So what type of clients would benefit from this system? Well, anybody that needs to propel with a little less effort. So think about your MS clients, your higher level spinal cord injury, muscular dystrophy, SMA, pediatrics for sure, geriatrics, anybody like that that has a range of motion issue, that has a weakness issue, that just needs a little help to propel. This makes a big difference for them, okay? The other system, the HX, is a high gear, and that gear ratio is 1 to 1.3. So for every time the hand rim goes around one time, that tire's going 1.3 or 30% faster. So the best analogy for that is think about a bicycle, right? If I'm pedaling up a hill and I have my mountain bike, I'm going to shift and then you feel that change. So now I'm pedaling more, but the force required to climb up that hill is much easier. That's the LX. However, if I'm on a flat piece of land and I really want to cover some distance, you feel that change and now you're really moving. That's the HX. So keep in mind, two different systems. HX system more geared towards your low-level spinal cord injuries, very active, have no range of motion issues, and good strength. And clearly for each system, there is some environmental aspect to that, where you live, what you're, if you're going up and down hills, that will have some factor into either chair, wheels, all those things come into play as far as your MREDLs. But just know the differences in who might benefit from which system. All right, so I want to cover one, the wheels, and some particular things about the wheels that you should know as you're choosing row wheels for your client, or if you're a client, you're looking at them and you want to know about the features. So a couple things here. We offer a variety of different hand rims. You can see that on this particular system. This is a rib grip version. We also offer out front, natural fit, the surge, Q grip. All those are great options depending upon the client and their function. It's all something we can put on the system. As far as wheel diameters, our standard is 22, 24, 25, 26, which really covers the gamut of most systems. If you notice here, and I do get questions about this, this is our standard spoke guard, and most people have great comments about it. It's got kind of a carbon fiber look to it. It's very slick, but it's on there for a reason. You notice there's a counter rotation there. One, I want to protect any clients as they use it, but I also want that kind of wow factor in there, which is key. Our hubs come in black, red, or white, and we can do some custom options. We've done custom options for the spoke guard. We've done custom option hydrographics for this. Those are all upcharged, but reach out to us on our website or myself or sales@rowheels.com, and we'll be happy to talk to you about something that fits your chair collar or scheme. So no problem there. Again, system in the back. We've made this, again, very uniform so that we can adapt. This is the standard 8-inch torque arm. We can do a 10 for folding chairs, even an extension if it's kind of an offsuit chair, that's not a problem. And we've done some unique things with the axle to account for most manufacturers. But quick release, it's very easy to take off and put on. And one of the key things I like to talk about that I think is important, especially with rehab equipment, is this wheel is designed to account for a client's chair and maybe their backup chair. Or maybe they're getting a chair now, they're in their 4th year, and they're getting a new one in a year, and we want to make sure these wheels work, because we know out there, none of the wheels seem to go back and forth between any of the manufacturers, and that's a different story. But this is designed to account for that. We want to account for it. We want the client to take it with that new chair. So that's important. I can address that with you in particular as far as this design goes, but just know that we're looking out for the client and we're looking out for the future and their health. That's important.